After losing in a historic fashion to UCLA, where does Penn State go, and is James Franklin going to be in Happy Valley that much longer?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
A crossover edition of Locked On the Portal and Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst, and we're going to be talking about none other than the historic loss for Penn State. And my friend here, Spencer McLaughlin, and I, how you doing, Spence?
Better than James Franklin.
Did you see the look on James's face after the game? I mean, he was just bewildered, like just in a state of, I can't believe I'm really here. And I don't blame him for that because they were whooped. I was watching the game just to pass the time a little bit in the first half. And I'm like, wait a minute. They might really lose this game. And when they got down 24-7, once it's a 3-score game, then it became real to me. They almost still lost to UCLA because their defense is still not very good. But UCLA just got run over. Like Nico has got that's the best game he's ever played, obviously.
By far.
And he ran the ball well, made good decisions. And the funniest part is Neuheisel, who's been there like 2 days as the coordinator, literally was calling the plays because they fired the last coordinator in the transition. I've never seen that in my life to have any success. In the middle of the week, you change coordinators and he dropped 42 on a top 10 team. How does that work? Let's start there, Spencer. How does that work?
Your head coach doesn't have you ready to play and in the right mindset to go win a football game. You know, it really felt like Penn State was trying to shake off the Oregon game, and UCLA was upset-minded, and we're going into that matchup, ignorance is bliss. You know, how can Jim Knowles have any plan for what Neuheisel is going to do as the OC when he's never called plays before? You know, it's the minor leaguer that just got called up to the majors and he's tearing up big league pitching. Why? Because no one's got any film on the guy. No one's studying this random dude in a team's AA program. Like you don't have, you know, a track record of what he's done in the majors. Well, that's kind of what it looked like here. I know that Jim Knowles is a great defensive coordinator. I also know that that side of the ball got their butts kicked all over the yard for 4 quarters on Saturday afternoon in Los Angeles. That's one of the most shocking things. We keep saying this, by the way. This is, I think, where college football is at, that, you know, we keep having these moments over and over, it seems. You talk about Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois, Ohio State losing to Michigan, Bama losing to Vandy. I go back to the title of this podcast, Brian, The Portal, and look at how that has equalized the talent distribution in college football. It's just gone on too long for it to be denied at this point. I just think that there are so many players. I mean, Nico wouldn't be at UCLA if not for the portal. Diego Pavia wouldn't be at Vanderbilt, making them a good team if not for the portal. And you just can go up and down all over the place and go, yeah, this is making a difference. And it showed up again. But, you know, back to your question of how does it happen? James Franklin doesn't have his guys ready to play football. He didn't have them focused on what goal they could still, you know, what goals they could still accomplish this year. They look like a team that was still trying to shake off the fact that, wow, we lost another heartbreaker and we should have won that game. And, oh, well, I guess we'll just go beat these guys. And UCLA sitting there going, we stink. House money time, folks.
I would agree. Franklin admitted that the players did not take the loss well. Now, I give him credit for admitting that. However, that's not going to help his cause with Penn State fans, because as the head coach, the buck stops with you. And at that same token, he's a veteran coach. This isn't like he's Neuheisel, like he's been around forever. He's coaching the SEC. He's coached at Penn State for a decade. He should know little things you can do to get them excited. And they walked out onto the Rose Bowl field like they were ready to take a nap.
Flat.
Oh my God, just horrific.
They were a 20-year-old can of Coca-Cola, Brian. flat as can be. No buzz, no bubbles, nothing. And then they woke up once they realized we're going to get embarrassed, and by then it was too late. Nico was cooking. Neuheisel had a game plan dialed. It was just something to behold. And, it took a couple of years, but we saw why Nico was a highly rated prospect.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I saw him at a 7-on-7. Like his arm strength and all that is insane. And he's a great athlete. So
he moves so easily. The long strides were just on display, and you looked around and went, wait, we saw glimpses of this at Tennessee, but it wasn't consistent. Some guys take longer to develop. That's all normal. But Tino Sinceri, what were you doing with this guy? Man, in one game, Neuheisel went, all right, we're going to do this, this, and this, and suddenly Nico looks like a true 5-star quarterback. It was one of the most unbelievable things that I have seen on a football field in the last few years.
100%. Well, here's the next question. For those that don't know, James Franklin's buyout is $50+ million. So there's a lot of Penn State fans that don't want to hear that because they know it ain't happening. And they're determined for it to happen. But still, I'm just, from being in the recruiting world, this is what is going to happen. Other schools are going to tell recruits, he ain't going to be there. Do you think this is going to cost Penn State recruits? Because they've recruited very well. I could see where this is going to make parents, recruits, their trainers, 7-on-7 coaches all nervous that his tenure is going to be trending towards on the out, and everybody wants to be able to say, although it's not realistic, my kid's going to play for this coach for the entirety of his career. It's not how it works, but that's what they want. Do you think it's going to hurt them on the recruiting trail?
I think it has to have some effect. To what extent remains to be seen, and also depends upon how they finish the year. I think more than what, will happen with recruits and other schools saying he's not going to be there and all this, I think Franklin can fight back against that narrative pretty easily. The negative recruiting that I think will come into play here, Brian, is you want to go play for that guy? You want to go play for that guy who's making wide receivers look worse every time they roll through the program, that doesn't have his guys ready to go? I think it's the outcome, and we'll see what kind of response they have going forward, because Ohio State fans wanted Ryan Day fired because he lost to Michigan, which was inexcusable, shocking, unbelievable. And then he goes on a generational run, wins the national championship. Well, if Penn State wins the rest of their games, they will beat Indiana, top 10 team, and Ohio State, the number 1 team in all of college football. Well, if somehow they do those things, go to the playoff, make a run to the national title game, well, suddenly the narrative changes. But from a recruiting standpoint, that's what popped into my head with regards to the Franklin, fallout from this atrocity of a football game for the Nittany Lions fans, is how easy is it right now to recruit against Penn State? Oh. As easy as it's ever been. You go over there, hey, you can think you're the difference. Those guys thought they were going to be different too. They were supposed to be. Let me show you some press clippings of what Penn State was supposed to be, what they were on paper, what they are on paper, frankly, compared to what they just did on Saturday. Coaches can look at that and say, he's not going to get you as ready for game day as I am.
After the UCLA game, what would your retort be if you were Franklin or anybody on his staff? I mean, that'd be pretty hard. So,
yeah, when you're, and it's not like he's 2 years into his tenure. This is year 12. So I don't know that there's a strong comeback. I'm sure he's going to think about it because it might come up a time or two in conversations with players, parents, coaches, whoever. And if I were James Franklin and I got that, I say, hey, I had a low moment. That was a bad day. But you know what? Just like when players make mistakes, they want to get better. I'm going to get better. The question is whether or not that's going to land, because, man,
12 years in?
But yeah, book's out on you at this point. And the guys that like him, I don't think Penn State's going to lose, half the recruiting class here. But I don't know how some of those kids don't look around and go, what were my other options again? Could I go to, that school over there because they offered me and I like Penn State, but boy, I don't know about this. And we'll see. I'm interested to see how it plays out because, as you know, games like this can stick in kids' minds and have an impact. And maybe the true recruiting impact isn't felt until the end of the 26 cycle or the start of the 27 cycle, and we see a fall off there. But in the short term, yeah, if I wanted to flip a Penn State commit to my school, I'd be saying, hey, that coach doesn't prepare you for game days like I'm going to. Here's my proof of concept compared to what he can deliver.
Absolutely agree. Spencer, tell everybody where they can find your work.
Locked On College Football and Locked On Ducks is on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. However you listen to this show, you listen to it over there. Biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth and everything related to the Ducks. Brian, it is the greatest time of year.
That is true. October is awesome, man.
October is great. October is great, even though I'm a Mariners fan and life is suffering.
All right. Thank you once again. You can find this podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your pods. Thank you very much.